These are some of the basic tools that I've acquired to help bring my photographs to the next level quality. This is the equipment that I've got currently for taking photographs, both inside and outside. And I'm going to go through each one and how they may be useful for you as well. The first one is the camera. Obviously that's the most important thing to take in pictures. This particular one is a Sony Alpha 5000. I've had it a few years, so it's a little bit dated, but it came in a package with a different lens as well. So in one package I was able to get both the near and the far lens. Multiple lenses are better for when you're doing farther distance. This camera has an intelligent auto mode, and it's great for someone like me that didn't really have a lot of experience in photography, doesn't understand a lot of things like shutter speed and all that fancy stuff that the pros do, but at least it allows someone like me to take a really nice picture. So I've been super happy with the camera. From a modern standpoint, the one thing that I think is a bit of a drawback for this one, and again, it's a few years old, is that it has a QR code you're supposed to be able to take a picture of and do NFC with it. It just doesn't quite work really well. So I have been successful around Wi-Fi, getting the pictures to show up on my phone, but that is one thing that may drive me to updating the camera, is get something that I have more control of remotely for both taking pictures and for connecting to a laptop to be able to view the pictures without just looking at a small screen. This is a simple, cheap tripod. I think it was literally like $20 on Amazon. It collapses all the way up to here, but it's got double extensions, telescoping. I think it's like 50, I don't know, some inches tall, something like that. And it does have a bubble level on it to help you with that. Now, you'll see here you've got the screw, and so if you take the top piece off here, there's the screw, and then that goes into the bottom of your camera. So you can take that, mount it to your camera, and then put it on top, and that's how you keep the camera still. And that way your vibration, your shakiness isn't coming through in your photographs. It's all as still as can be. This is a small kit that is a combination of both reflector, and this is more of your white lights. You also have on the back the ability to use gold, which is going to give it a warmer tone in your pictures. And then in the middle, what you have here is a diffuser. So let's say you're outside and you've got a bright light down at your target, or you've got the sun and it's casting a little bit too much of a direct light. You can use this and hold it between your subject and the light source. It scatters it across a wider area in a softer light and not so direct. And you'd use a reflector in cases where, let's say your subject was here, the light source was up here, but you wanted to be over here taking photos. Then what you would do is place the reflector off to the side so that it caught the sun or whatever the light source is and shined a little bit back in a nice soft manner against your target. So what you're doing is you're using this to reflect the light source against the dark side of your target. Previously, I'd picked up some cheap lighting, again about 20 bucks probably from Amazon, and they're pretty direct. They're a small source, and I do see reflections of those sometimes in the target. So this is a case where maybe having that diffuser in front of them would scatter the light and make it softer. But what I've gone to now is, in fact, I just got this kit, is the more umbrella style professional level lighting sources. You can see at the base that you have the option to put it all the way down to the bottom, or you can put it up high, and that'll affect where your endpoint at the top comes up. And then once you have that right, then you just tighten the little knobs. So that one there is as low as you can go, and this one is as high as you can go with the two telescoping sections. So it's actually way tall if you want it. You can put the head on with a sideways orientation like the low one, or you can put it in the vertical for maximum height if you prefer that. The bulb simply inserts into the socket, and then there's a hole here where the umbrella stem comes through. And remember, you want the light bulb shining into the umbrella so that it diffuses it as it bounces back. Same with this one, and again, because that one's vertically mounted, we're able to put that one on an angle and aim downward at the top. And the last thing I have is a foldable backdrop. So you may have, for indoors, you may already have surfaces and walls that you like to use that are a light color or dark color, depending on what kind of photography you do. But this is an option you have, and this particular one actually folds up. And you can see it's got a black half and a white half. So depending on what you're shooting, main thing you want to look at is make sure you have contrast. So if you have something black, probably not going to capture it against a black background. Or if you have something white, it'll probably just wash out against the white background. So that's just another handy tool to have. You can see here I've taken some object, a guitar in this case, and I put it in a corner. Over there was a little bit too much natural light, and I want to make sure that you understand the effects of the lighting. So it's a little bit of a darker corner. There is light coming through some closed shades over here a little bit, but in general it's pretty dark. And you can tell by looking through the video that it's dark here. But you can also see a drastic contrast of me. I look like just a silhouette against the natural light coming through that window, right? So that's another thing you have to think about, is not only in backdrop of colors, but in lighting, especially if you've got windows in the background. All right, with no modified settings, I'm just gonna try to take some pictures kind of offhand like I would. Okay, so there's 5 taken with just my bare hands holding it. And how shaky it ends up is going to depend a lot on how much caffeine you've had that day or whatever. But there are my 5 base shots before doing anything else. Now, let's turn the camera off. The next thing I'm going to do is mount it to the tripod for more stability. Now I'm going to take a couple pictures. I'll try one here. This angle. Okay, now there's 5 of those. Now the next thing we want to add is the lighting. Now we have more lighting, and the guitar is going to look brighter, obviously. The one thing you always have to watch for when you have artificial lighting like this, or even natural lighting, is trying to make sure that you don't have too much for shadows. Because sometimes when you put like those more concentrated lights I showed you earlier, because they're so focused, and I wasn't using a diffuser, they created some pretty harsh shadows, and that's what you want to try to avoid, and the whole point of having good lighting like this. So let's try a few shots like this. You can see how much of a difference these lights make. This is with both of them on. There's with that one off. Here's with one of them on. And that's how it looks with it off. So you can see what a huge difference these lights make on the subject. All right, the only tool left in our toolbox is the backdrop. Now I'm being a little bit lazy because I'm not unfolding all 4 panels of that. It's kind of a little bit of a pain, but I'm trying to just show you the difference it makes on the background. So if we take our subject now. Now from this angle, we can see that the lighting should really be moved around a little bit. We're getting some shadows right in this area. And that's just because the lights were originally coming from that way because it was sort of tucked in a corner. Now we're getting a little bit of shadows, so I'm going to take this chance to show you the reflector. So if you look at it, here's without the reflector. And now if we come in and we start shining some light, we can quickly see it lighting up this side of the guitar and softening those shadows a little bit, depending on where we aim it. So they're not all going away. The best thing to do would be to move that light over here and rearrange the lights. But I just kind of want to use this to demonstrate how you would use a reflector to capture an area that may be a darker side of the subject, and you can use the other light sources to bounce back into it. Now again, let's look at each of these. First, here's the picture of the guitar in the dark, no lighting. Here's the guitar with the tripod being used to help stabilize the photographs. Here's the addition of the 2 umbrella lightings, one from a high point and one from over to the side. Here's the addition of the white background. And here's how you could use a reflector to light up the dark side of a topic as well as soften those shadows. For everything you see here, in other words, the camera, the lighting, the diffusers, and the backdrop was less than $1,000. Now, I know that can still be a lot of money, and I know that there are things like ring lights that are more practical if you're just doing talking head stuff, just selfies and whatever else. But if you want to be doing a little bit more photography and have a little bit more professional looking photos, these are the basics. Two things are going to contribute to better photography: better experience and better equipment. And I still consider myself somewhat of an amateur photographer, I guess. So it's a hobby for me, and I just started to learn more about the lighting and how to make the photos look a lot better. So I've invested a little bit in some of these handy tools that will just bring my photographs to a next level.
Subscribe to my YouTube channel below and let's celebrate turning fuel and air into adrenaline.